Obama releases his budget plan and gets flack from both sides. Key legislators who are environmentalists are getting flack for not speaking out strongly enough against the Keystone Pipeline. We'll decide whether that's true as we process the information. And also a little bit more on the Ku Klux Klan seeking recruits here in Iowa. And finally, Heather Ryan is with me today with Ryan's Rants.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano, and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Brother Trucker, folks, and we are kicking off our conversation today here on the Fallon Forum with a shout-out of thanks to the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility. Speaking of PSR, Physicians for Social Responsibility, the national organization of PSR endorsed the Great March for Climate Action yesterday. That was a huge boost to us. That's a group that has tremendous credibility, has done a great, fantastic work over the years. And to have them and their executive director jump on board. She gave us a great quote. In fact, the quote is on the news page of the Great March for Climate Action's website. Also, earlier this week, Bill McKibben and 350.org endorsed the Great March. That's also incredibly good news because 350 is doing yeoman's work on the grassroots level to try to highlight the issue of climate change and to do something about it. Specifically, they are focused a lot on the Keystone Pipeline, which we will talk about earlier. Third endorsement just came in this morning. That's from the Center on Biological Diversity. We had a guest on this program from that organization last week, Jerry Karnas, and delighted to have them endorsing the Great March for Climate Action as well. So things continue to move forward on that front. I do want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show, and I want to thank the Register, for a great editorial on the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. They nailed this one. They hit this one out of the park, and sometimes, oftentimes they strike out completely. But this one is, just nails it. Okay, there are over 300 million people in the U.S. as the editorial points out, and about 4,000 of them belong to the Klan. And again, this is just kind of funny, but to put that in perspective, they say, since its membership began declining in the 1970s, more people have been struck by lightning than have joined the group. I really don't know what logical value that comparison has, and maybe the Register would agree with that, but it's funny, and a little bit of humor not once in a while in an editorial from a board that tends to be very serious and sometimes very dour. Not a bad thing. Okay, so the Klan. The Klan is fairly entrenched in America. I mean, again, they've been around a long, long time, and they're trying to. They know that racism is kind of not very popular right now, even though it's still, we still have plenty of racism in this society, plenty of sexism, plenty of bigotry of one type or another. It is not as popular as it used to be to hate black people. It just isn't. You just don't get as much mileage out of that as you did in the good old days. So. This guy, Frank Ancona, who we talked a little bit about yesterday, is here to recruit Iowans. And, Van Buren County, I know Van Buren County really well. I spent a lot of time down there years ago working on land use issues, and in fact ended up helping to facilitate a months-long dialogue on how to best guide development in this beautiful rural niche of southeast Iowa. And again, Van Buren County, understand, there's not a single chain business in the whole county. That's a good thing. There's not a single stoplight in the whole county. In my opinion, that's also a good thing. So yeah, you won't see any traffic cameras busting people in Van Buren County. I mean, it's a beautiful place. The Des Moines River takes this nice sweeping curve through Van Buren County, and it's a wonderful, wonderful area of the state. And also, again, very, very rural and somewhat more conservative than other parts of that area of the state. So again, maybe the Klan sees that as prime recruiting ground. So, and again, they go way back in this. I mean, to get an idea of how deep-rooted the Klan's influence in this country goes, I want you to take a look at this picture. Yeah, you might recognize that, folks. That's the Washington Monument, okay? Now, that may be totally a coincidence, but okay, if the Register can have a little fun, so can I. There are those who contend that the Washington Monument, with its peaked top and two red lights, looks a little bit like a Klansman's hood. But yeah, beyond the humor there, yeah, this group goes way back. They've done a lot of horrible things. And again, I like the Register's take on this. They're not a hate organization. I mean, again, State Representative Kurt Hansen rightfully, spoke out against them on the floor of the House the other day. That's his district, his area, so he had a right and a good reason to do that. He described them as a hate organization, and they certainly are. But the Register, again, I think has it right. Historically, it's not just a hate organization; it's a terrorist organization. How is it not an act of terrorism to burn a cross on somebody's lawn, to kill and lynch a black man? I mean, not just they threaten, they intimidate, they say horrible things. But let's remember our history. They kill people. They have killed a bunch of folks in the past, shamelessly, and getting away with it. All right. And again, to be clear, I know there are some folks up here in the northern areas of this country that use the Klan's presence and activities as a way to malign all Southerners or the entire South. And that's just bunk, okay? You don't need to do that. There's no reason for that. There are a lot of wonderful people in the southern states. There are a lot of there's a proud tradition, a lot of culture, a lot of wisdom, a lot of academic vitality has blossomed in that warm, sunny part of our nation, and they are as strongly critical of the hatred of the Klan as we are up here. Okay, so and again, the fact that they are here looking for Iowa members, and presumably there is some a sense that they've got some fertile ground, but maybe not. Maybe we'll find that they just come up short without any recruits at all. That would be great. So again, as the Register points out, they've tried to for years to remake themselves. You know, they're not the mess. They're not the group of hatred, of intolerance, of racism. And yet, if you read what they say, what they continue to post, how they continue to describe themselves, I mean, and Ancona, they said this. Frank Ancona, the guy who went to Van Buren County to try to recruit people, said he did not believe in mixing of the races. Okay, you cannot say you don't believe it. I don't say I don't. There's no way you can cut that. You can't say that unless you're a racist. You don't believe in the mixing of the races. I mean, that they shouldn't live together, they shouldn't work together. I mean, which races? I mean, how far do you want to go with that? What about Norwegians and Scandinavians? I mean,
anthropologically speaking, there is actually no difference between races being in quotation marks, because race isn't even a thing, really. There's no difference.
All right.
So they're not different at all, so there can be no mixing if you're the same.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, too. Let's see. I would love to get this guy on my show just to kind of get into his mind a bit, figure out what the heck where's he coming from? And he's also used slurs against gays and against Muslims. And again, it's still a little less unpopular to malign gays. It's you can even get away with a little bit more maligning Muslims. But again, I believe we are, as a society, moving beyond that kind of hatred and division. Again, that's not to say it doesn't still exist, but clearly it exists. So, again, listen to what this guy says. Again, he's worked for years to try to recruit new members and spread the Klan's message around, and yet he only has a few hundred followers on Twitter. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not a threat, or it's not exactly a measurement of your vibrancy, but it's an indication. If you're working hard to recruit people and you've only got a couple hundred folks on that social media venue. And one of his recent posts said, "Had enough yet, white people?" Okay. Oh gosh. I'm really glad that people are taking this guy to task, and I hope that more of that continues to happen. All right. I want to save we got to talk about Obama's budget, but I want to save that for the second segment of this program, because I want to talk a little bit about Keystone. Again, there's quite an event coming up here on next week, April 18th, in Grand Island, Nebraska. It will be the only public hearing that the State Department has agreed to hold for the general public to comment on whether they oppose or support the Keystone Pipeline. And there is a huge effort across the country to bring people in to Nebraska to comment on this. Now, the other thing you can do, if you can't make it to the hearing, you can always submit your testimony in writing. And 350.org is planning on depositing a whole tome of commentary in Washington, D.C. at the appropriate location on Earth Day, which is a good symbol, a good message. But if you can make it to the hearing, that's a strong presence there would send volumes of messages to would really make a loud and clear statement to the administration of how people feel about this. And again, from Iowa, it's only 275 miles away. There are buses, there is carpooling going on. The Sierra Club, the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, is organizing transportation. You can find out more about that at their website, or you can go to my website, fallonforum.com, and under the events section, there is the appropriate information and links to contacts for that. So again, I hope Iowans can turn out in good numbers for the public hearing in Grand Island next week on April 18th. So what was I going to say here? The issue with Keystone, I mean, Keystone has become kind of a hot button, a key point for this, because it's not just a symbol. Yeah, sure, it's symbolic of the battle to do something about climate change, but more than a symbol, it is a huge issue because of the amount of carbon that would be released in the extraction of the tar sands and in the burning of the oil produced by them. It is more than we have burned in our entire industrial age history from coal, gas, and oil combined. So this is not just a symbol, again, but it is a good symbol. But it is more than that. It is an emphatic, it's a key point at where we might, if we do exploit this oil, we might go beyond where we really need to be in order to see any kind of reasonable future for this planet. I do want to say there's some criticism of Democrats and state legislators around the country that are passing resolutions in support of the Keystone Pipeline. That has not happened in Iowa, but it seems to be a thing happening in a lot of states based on very similar language provided by TransCanada. Interesting. The organization, the corporation that benefits from exploiting the tar sands is the one helping to write, along with, of course, the American Legislative Exchange Council, helping to write the resolutions that are passing multiple state legislators around the country. So, again, that is interesting. I want to talk a little bit more about that. Folks, if you want to join the conversation on this subject, we're pretty wide open today. 244-0077, 244-0077. Let's go to line one. Maddie, who do we got? Hey, Leonard, welcome to the show.
Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to the standards of anthropology, she's wrong. The races are different anthropologically. They're not different taxonomically. So
all right.
All of the races are members of the same species, which is to say Homo sapiens. But from a standpoint of anthropology, which would include ethnicity and so forth, they're different.
Sorry, Matt. I guess you're taking on a history major here. Okay.
But from a standpoint of taxonomy, from a taxonomical standpoint, that is to say, the division of the animal species into different species and phyla and so forth, they're the same because we're all members of the species of Homo sapiens.
Now, you've been around for a while, Leonard. You've been an observer of history. What do you think?
Well, the Irish are definitely different. But
well,
no,
right, we're far superior than any other
right.
race or culture. Right. Yeah, but you've been around a long time, and you've seen a lot of changes. My contention is that there is less racism in our society now than there was maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago.
You're correct, although you could argue that the racism that's still here is harder to fight than the racism of the 50s and 60s. The racism that's here now is probably not susceptible to freedom riders or mass marches and so forth. It's more subtle. On the other hand, every now and again, the rednecks down south prove that I'm a liar.
Well, I mean, why? What do you mean? Why rednecks down south? Why not rednecks in Iowa?
Well, a couple of years ago, if memory serves, the former governor of Mississippi, Haley Barbour, announced that, in his opinion, the white citizens' councils in the '60s were not that bad. Well, I'm sorry, they were that bad.
Yeah, and he's wrong on that. But Barbour actually
he was probably a member.
Well, I don't know about that, but again, my point is I think we're making progress, and if in fact it's more subtle, then that's an indication that we're making progress.
When I was a kid, you found blacks in Des Moines, and pretty much localized to north and east of East 14th and University.
Right.
People would find this hard to believe today, but the area around River Bend, or what the cabbies used to call Short North, when I was in high school, was largely blue collar white.
Right.
I graduated from North in 1963, and if memory serves, there weren't more than a dozen or so blacks in my graduating class.
Right.
In 1961, Stan and Edna Griffin bought a house at 1604 44th Street. They didn't buy it through a real estate agent because in 1961...
You probably couldn't.
Well, a real estate agent would never have sold a black family a house at 1604 44th Street. That's right across the street from Perkins Elementary School.
Right.
Stan and Edna and their kids were far and away the first black folks. Well, their kids were far and away the first black folks at Perkins.
Right. And they ran into trouble back then, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they were.
And you could, that couldn't happen today. And again,
well, it could happen, but not as overtly. For instance, the neighbor's dog would come over and play with Griffin's dog, and then the neighbors would call their dog back and beat it for playing with black folks' dog.
That actually happened.
That actually happened.
Wow.
The neighbors on the other side of their property put up a 6-foot privacy fence. Edna used to joke about the idea that she couldn't afford a privacy fence, but that way she got it for free.
She did have a sense of humor, yeah.
I mean, and people in this town sometimes overlook the fact that in 1949, Edna picketed the Katz drugstore down the 7th and Walnut.
Because Katz refused to serve black customers.
Well, they would serve black customers, but not at the lunch counter.
Ah, right. Okay.
They were perfectly willing to take your money, but you couldn't sit at the. It's.
Yeah, how did that? Now that those pickets didn't land anybody in jail, but they did bring public pressure.
I don't think she got ticketed or arrested.
Right. What happened?
It's over.
And at what point did Katz Drug decide to back off their prohibition against blacks sitting at the lunch counter?
I don't know. We weren't in Des Moines yet then. Are you familiar with Harry Golden?
No.
Jewish author?
Oh, yes. Okay. Right.
Okay. Edited the Carolina Israelite, and has some of his ramblings were edited into book form for 2 cents plain, only in America. Enjoy. Harry once said that what we really needed was something he called the vertical Negro plan. He noticed that restaurants that didn't have seating facilities didn't discriminate against blacks. So he figured they'd take the tables out of all the restaurants and put in counters at which you could lean, and all of a sudden, segregation rate in restaurants would disappear. Like I say, he called it the vertical Negro plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the... There are better approaches to the problem.
Well, it may be true.
Well, I mean, Katz Drug Store no longer exists, but again...
No, and that one down there, when we moved to Des Moines in 57, it was gone then, I think.
Right.
When we moved to Des Moines in 57, the Katz Drug up at Park Fair was still very much there, and there was one over at 19th and Carpenter.
And they were allowing blacks to eat at the lunch counter.
Well, I don't even remember whether they had lunch counters then. I don't recall it. Certainly in Park Fair, there was a Woolworths that had a lunch counter.
Right.
And in 57, they didn't care.
Well, Leonard, I got to go to a break.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I do want to, when we come back, we're going to talk about Obama's budget, which is getting bipartisan critics. It's getting a lot of flack from both sides of the aisle. And we'll talk a little bit more about Keystone, and later in the program, Heather Ryan will be joining us. I want to thank Gateway Marketing Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our program. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland. They're a full-service grocery store and also a fantastic cafe for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Check them out, folks. That's Gateway Market and Cafe at 20th and Woodland. I'll be back in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day uno one of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates, in just a minute. There's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, folks, favors, neighbors. I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show, and remind you that if you like the Fallon Forum and like what we're doing, want to help this keep growing and moving forward, and we are growing. We're up to about 1,450 listeners per show now, and our website traffic keeps growing. We're, going through the roof. Every month this year, it's been increasing. So good news. Thank you for your support, for your interest. And again, if you want to support the show financially, there's a button to do that on the Fallon Forum website. If you want to advertise your event, your business, your organization, we have a way to help you with that as well. And in doing so, you help this show grow as well. Again, we're now on two radio shows, also two radio stations, also one in Ames, one out of Decorah. And it's nice to see that there is interest in an alternative to the far right-wing voices that now have come to dominate the commercial airwaves, compliments of the policies of both Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton. So go figure that one out. All right, I want to talk, before Heather Ryan joins us here, I want to talk a little bit about Obama's budget. Yeah, there's, there may be a little bit more to say on the Keystone thing, but this is important. Politics is about compromise. I know that. And you have to have some willingness to find middle ground. You might have to give up on something. You might have to give on something that you really want or believe in, or go in a direction where you'd rather not go. But it has to happen. Politics doesn't work without that. And part of the problem is we see, especially among Republicans, there's been some folks on the left who are unwilling to move as well. And there are things they shouldn't move on. There's some issues that are matters of principle where you just cannot budge. You never budge on principle, but you can budge on details. When it comes to a budget, a lot of what we're talking about is the dollar value. Ultimately, how much you're willing to spend, how much you're willing to generate in taxes. And so, Obama is offering a budget that he's not 100% happy with it himself, but it's an attempt to try to reach a compromise. Okay, this is a budget that it's a 2014 budget that would cut the deficit by $1.8 trillion over the next decade. It would reduce the percentage of the deficit from, let's see, what is it? It's from I can't remember now, but I want to say it'll reduce the deficit as a portion of the budget to just a couple 3%, down from where it is now. I can't find it now, but it's way up. I want to say 12, 13, 14%. Yeah, there we go. It's under the White House plan. It projects the deficit will fall to 2.8% of GDP by 2016. Yeah, so that's a lot lower than where it's at now. And again, if fully enacted, it would reduce the federal deficit to 1.7% of gross domestic product by 2023. And again, you'd like to get rid of it altogether, but that is a huge step forward right there. Again, I'm not saying that I'm totally on board with the president's proposal either. I mean, it does to Social Security what a lot of people. That's what's really getting a lot of folks on the political left riled up. It saves $230 billion by restructuring cost of living adjustments for beneficiaries of Social Security, and basically it ties it to something called the Chained Consumer Price Index. Okay, and I'm trying to be open-minded on this, and I understand the logic. Okay, here's how it would work. The new approach to how you estimate what folks should get on Social Security ties it to again the Chained Consumer Price Index, which is this new measure would show a lower level of inflation than the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, that's currently used. Now, the assumption is that as prices rise, consumers turn to lower cost alternatives, reducing the amount of inflation they experience. Okay, the example that they give in the article in the Associated Press story is that, for example, if the price of beef increases while the price of pork does not, people will buy more pork rather than pay the higher beef prices. I'm not sure that's the best analogy, because oftentimes if you see, beef go up, pork goes up, chicken goes up, all meat goes up. Maybe the better analogy, but they probably would have got more flack for this, would be if the price of meat goes up, they buy less meat. Heaven forbid that we would buy less meat. And I'm not a vegetarian, but I do think those who argue that we may be eating too much meat as a nation have a good point. So yeah, that's an aside, obviously. But the point is that, yeah, you do see people shifting their behavior. Again, if the heating bills are too high, if the cost of fuel oil goes up, natural gas goes up, maybe instead of cranking the heat up a couple degrees, as they had been doing, people put on a sweater. Again, not a bad idea. Well, what happened when the price of gas went up? When the fuel prices at the pump were way higher than people had been paying, and more than people wanted to pay, and in many cases more than people felt they could afford, well, they started taking buses. They started riding their bikes. So I think the Chained Consumer Price Index theory makes a lot of sense. And also, I don't mind seeing the adjustments in human behavior in response to high prices. I'm not saying that we want high prices, but again, some of the behaviors that come out of that unfortunate situation are very positive, and they should be factored into conversations about what you tie Social Security increases to. Okay, so furthermore on this, okay, so the change would reduce the federal budget deficit by $230 billion, as I've said, over the next decade. Of that, $100 billion would come from higher tax revenues because annual inflation adjustments to tax brackets. Okay, and this proposed change, of course, as I told you, is unpopular among many Democrats in Congress, including our own Bruce Braley, and of course unpopular among senior citizens and those who advocate for seniors, who complain that it would hit low and middle income families. Well, yeah, it would. It does. Like most of what happens, unfortunately, hits low and middle income families. Of course, this is popular among budget hawks because it cuts benefits and increases taxes gradually. But the budget hawks, as they're called, are unhappy with the budget for other reasons. At least Obama does include in there a tax increase for millionaires. Again, I have a hard time understanding how anybody can come out in opposition to higher taxes for the upper crust. I mean, gosh, I mean, it's not even a matter of interpreting, of your opinion. I mean, the facts are there. They're doing really, really well. They're doing very, very well, and much better than the rest of us. So yeah, maybe they should pay a little bit more. They're the ones benefiting from the way things have gone in recent years. Okay, so Obama's budget proposal did not specify the impact on individual programs. The Congressional Budget Office, in a previous analysis, estimated that the reduction in benefits over the next decade would be $127 billion for Social Security. And for Supplemental Security Income, SSI, it'd be $38 billion. And for Medicare and Medicaid combined, it'd be $29 billion. Okay, so here's Bruce Bradley on this. Bruce Bradley says he called it immoral to balance the budget on the backs of seniors and disabled people. You know, I like Bruce Bradley. I think he'll be a great U.S. Senator. But that's kind of tired rhetoric. You just hear it all the time. Balance the budget on the backs of the poor. And I know I've said that myself. And there are certainly proposals that do that. It just gets a little bit tiring because it doesn't say anything specific or helpful in trying to analyze the current situation. Again, under Obama's budget, an Iowan who lives to age 85 would see a 9.7% reduction in Social Security benefits over his or her lifetime, Braley pointed out. He says, quote, there are a host of other ways we can address that problem without taking money out of the hands of Iowans. He's right, of course. Well, yeah, we could. There's a host of other things we can do. But how do you get the radical right on board without some concessions? That's the problem. I understand the problem that Obama is in. Braley also disapproves of Obama's proposal to shift federal student loans to market-based rates rather than a government-set rate, saying it would, quote, yield really high burdens on students who are trying to get a college education. I don't have a good sense of that. I don't have a good feel for that. You may be right. Anyway, there's there's lots of reasons to oppose Obama's compromise, and I think because Congress still tends to be very, very very. Both sides have dug their heels in, and they don't seem to be willing to engage in a lot of compromise. And I'll say that to a much lesser extent, the Democratic side, even though again I'm not happy with a lot of what comes out of the Democratic side, they certainly have demonstrated more maturity, more willingness to dialogue and compromise than the folks on the right in Congress. Here's the one thing that really bugs me, though. Again, I don't know if I was in Congress, how I would vote on Obama's plan. But the question I'd be asking is, why the heck is the military budget always off the table? Why is there never any discussion about trying to rein in the military budget? I mean, again, look at discretionary spending. Again, when you take Social Security out of the mix, Medicare, Medicaid, other things that we are required to spend money on, you've got what? $1 trillion, $1.2 trillion. And half of that goes to the military. Half of that. The other half goes to education, healthcare, foreign affairs, foreign aid, the farm program, food stamps. The other half goes to everything else. Half the discretionary budget goes to one area, and it's and I wonder all the saber rattling over in Korea. Great cartoon in the paper today, by the way, that shows the U.S. military leaving Afghanistan behind and peering through a door into the Korean peninsula. And you have to wonder, is this going to be the next place where we send troops? And is that one, again, is this part of what happens, why we have this the military budget totally off the table? I mean, it's become the sacred cow. It's hard to argue against politically because people get riled up when you can always spin a proposal to cut the military. If you're a hawk, if you're on the right, you can spin it as somebody wanted to be soft on defense, wanting to put our troops, our young men and women in harm's way. Even though some of those same people vote against what they need to do for veterans once they come home. That argument will always be made. But the the fact that even in Obama's budget, he couldn't put that on the table. That disturbs me. So again, here I am talking about why compromise is needed, why people should at least give, his proposal some consideration, and why maybe even the Change Consumer Price Index concept is at least worth talking about. The fact that the military budget is totally off the table. If there's anything that's immoral, Congressman Braley, that's what's immoral. The fact that the military budget isn't even considered for cuts. Anyway, we're going to talk more about this in the future because I have a feeling They ain't going away. Remember, we're living in sequester times, folks. Not only are we living in a new climate era, but we're living in a new budget era. And the sequester is the law of the land right now. And that can't persist forever, of course. We'll see what happens, so we'll have more to talk about on the budget for sure. I do want to thank Community CPA and Associates again. If you're thinking about budgets, how about your own? How about your own tax liability? Again, I'm tired of paying more taxes than I need to, and you should be too. And one way to make sure you don't is to get somebody who knows what they're doing and working with you, working for you. If you're a single person filing a W-2, you're only looking at $97 to get your taxes filed with Community CPA. Beyond that, it's a sliding scale depending on what you need and what kind of work's involved. But give Ying Sa, the owner, a shout at 288-3188. That's 288-3188. And ask her what advice she has for you when it comes to putting together your tax return. And remember, that deadline is Monday. So be on the ball. I'll be back in a minute. Heather Ryan is joining me with Ryan's Rants.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Rizo for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The fighting burrito is locally owned.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
This is Dr. Holding of the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35, 515-232-8766.
Local farms, global flavor. That's the secret to Hawk's growing popularity. The best meals begin with the best ingredients, and 90% of Hawk's ingredients come from local farms. In addition to seasonal fruits and vegetables, Hawk features grass-fed beef and lamb, and pasture-raised chicken and duck, all raised without hormones, steroids, or cages. The coffee is fair trade, locally roasted, and Hawk's House liquors come from right here in Iowa. Hawk's owners go the extra mile, composting organic waste and recycling. For more information or to make reservations, visit hawktable.com. That's HOQ table.com.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm not the guy who cared about love. I'm not the guy who cared about fortunes and such. Never cared much. Oh, look at me now.
Oh, look at me now. My gosh.
I never knew.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the conversation. Max Wellman, and we are We are going to be talking with Heather Ryan here momentarily. I do want to thank the Natural Living Expo for also helping to sponsor this segment of the show. The Natural Living Expo has their 8th annual expo coming up on May 18th and 19th. It's going to be at the 4-H building at the State Fairgrounds. Over 150 vendors. This is a great event, folks, because you can learn a lot about all sorts of aspects of living better, living healthier, living longer, living wiser. So check it out, folks, May 18th and 19th. There's information on my website, and there'll be more information on this program, too, as we move forward. Also want to remind people about Repertory Theater of Iowa's The Championship Season coming up April 19th through May 15th at the Des Moines Social Club. This is a fantastic production. A straight-from-the-shoulder knockout brimming with vitality, according to the New York Daily News. Anyway, done by our own Repertory Theater of Iowa right here in Des Moines. Okay. Maddie, I'm in that amazing sinking chair. Isn't this weird? I just gradually sinking below Siberia. Someday we've got to fix these chairs, but that's when the budget grows a bit. Hey, Heather Ryan's in the studio with me. Heather, welcome. Nana. Speaking of na, you have a book in front of you with a bright pink cover. What the heck is that?
It's exciting, actually. I just got my proof yesterday in the mail. I got home, and it was waiting for me on the doorstep. And I can't even tell you how jazzed I am. You're the first person I'm actually sharing this with in live person. Besides me and my family.
Now you're sharing it with 1,450 others.
1,400 people get to see my book. This is my brand new book.
Unleashing a Momster.
Momster, get it? Ha ha, play on words.
Yeah, I get it.
it's creepy, right? It's a great cover because it's nice and creepy and freaks out.
And what is it about?
It's actually a book about, it's 3 years of my life working with Mickey and Eden Wood, which are two of the most famous pageant folks in the industry. She was, we were revolutionaries, really, and I created the genre, or not genre, but the persona that was surrounding the two of them, and ended up capturing their own show, and ended up being the downfall of our relationship. It was almost a surreal experience. So it's basically that's it in a nutshell.
All right,
in a big nutshell. But I'm tickled. I can't even tell you how excited I am to
So
actually.
are you braced for the inevitable lawsuits?
I am.
I can tell you, I know a good attorney you could engage.
I'm sure I will need him.
Glazebrook and Moe, the law firm of Glazebrook and Moe. Highly recommend it when it comes to lawsuits.
I did choose to go self-published because of the lawsuit threat. And, I prefaced that in the very beginning of the book. Look, I know there's typographical errors because I went self-published because I'm going to get sued. Yeah. But just because I get sued doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that she doesn't want everybody to know. So, that's basically, it's a very captivating story as far as I'm concerned, but it doesn't mean that I won't get sued. I'm sure I'll get sued.
Well, hey, let's talk a little politics here. I want to talk about the school board a little bit because that's happening. But first, I was talking in the last segment about Obama's budget and about Social Security.
Right.
And to me, it's not there are plenty of things I don't like about the budget proposal, including the lack of any interest in addressing military spending, which is just runaway. But you've got the Social Security proposal that ties the increases to the change consumer price index, meaning they estimate that they don't just factor in the cost of, for example, the example they use, beef going up. They presume that if costs go up, people will adjust by changing their behavior. Like when gas got really expensive at the pump, people were out taking the bus, riding, carpooling, riding their bikes. Mm-hmm. So that to me is not a bad idea. Congressman Braley is raging against it. A lot of other congressional Democrats are against it. I'm presuming maybe you would be too. I don't know.
I hate to agree with you here, but it's not a bad idea. It makes sense. When gas prices went through the roof, you saw less people driving SUVs. You saw the Hummer go out, so it kind of makes sense. And I'd have to say Barack Obama's smarter than most of us. So if he's,
most of us.
But
he's not smarter than Frank from Des Moines.
I have to disagree.
You think so? I don't know.
I think Barack Obama is smarter than 98% of the population, including Frank.
Well, Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, Frank, are you smarter than Barack Obama?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what. I'd like to see the smartest guy in the room go on, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, and see actually how smart he is, because we're told how smart he is. We're told Hillary is very smart, but she couldn't, a Harvard graduate couldn't pass a DC bar exam, and she had to go down to Arkansas and pass it. So
anyway, what about the president's budget plan?
Well, Ed, here's the problem I got. You see these reports on government spending, and you see that there's multiple departments of government that do the exact same job. Now, if you, Ed, was the owner of a corporation or a business,
I am.
And you had
what do you mean if?
Well, let's put it this way. Let's say you had 6 Maddies doing the same job.
I don't need 6 Maddies. I got a Maddie.
Well, what if you had 6 of them doing the same job? Would you have to figure out? You might have to let 5 of them go.
Yeah, I wouldn't make that mistake.
There was a report the other day that there was 600 government programs taking care of the environment. How come we need all those programs? Why can't all those programs be under one roof? Why can't retraining programs for teachers that's been let go or whatever, why can't, that number in the 30s and 40 programs, why can't those all be under one roof?
It's hard to analyze that without specific information.
Well, but you see the problem. Democrats and Republicans both agree that there's fraud, waste, and abuse, duplication, and overlap in government. But nobody ever wants to go after it. They just keep saying, give us more money. Now, Barack Obama,
why can't we apply the same analysis to the military budget?
We should.
Okay, oh good.
So after all,
I have a veteran in the studio with me, and I think she would probably agree that the military budget is out of control.
Absolutely out of control.
If you're paying $700 for a toilet seat or $700 for a hammer, that's outrageous.
Well, and beyond that, if you're paying $1 trillion for a couple wars that you really didn't need to fight, that's out of control
that's a
too.
Different story. I'm talking.
It's not a different story. We're fighting wars that don't need to be fought.
And now we're threatening to go into Korea.
Opinion. I'm talking about the waste in the material.
So are we.
The goods.
Well, there's all sorts of ways to shape waste. You can waste it on like you said, a toilet seat, or in doing something you don't need. You talked about having 6 Maddies. Well, what about? How is that any different than sending troops to a war that is founded on false premises, basically on lies, weapons of mass destruction? No.
Well,
Saddam linked to 9/11? No.
How about the wars your guys start?
My guys?
Lost here.
My guys.
What wars are those?
Which war did your guys
wars
start?
Wars with Frank? Does it count?
I think Obama was trying to dance all over and around the War Powers Act while he was over there lobbing Tomahawk missiles off of submarines and ships over at Gaddafi. What about that war? Is that war okay because there's a D next to the name and not an R?
No. I don't know why you tend to project a lot more partisanness on me and on Heather, I think, in this case, than we would ever want to subscribe to.
I'm just giving it back to what I'm hearing you guys give my side.
I don't know. We're saying that you spent umpty trillion dollars, not you, but the country spent umpty trillion dollars on wars that never should have been fought. And I'm saying that's wasteful.
Okay,
we're talking about waste here.
Yeah, let me ask this. Let me ask Heather and Frank. Why do you suppose the military budget is not even on the chopping block for either the Republican, the Democratic, or the president's proposal? Why is it not on the chopping block at all?
I've got a novel idea that I've tossed out before. I don't know if I've ever laid it out for you guys, but see what you think about this. Why do we need so many branches of military? Why can't the military just be under one branch and eliminate a whole lot of people that do nothing?
Who does nothing?
How about the Army, the Air Force, the National Guard, the Marines, all be under one thing and not have so many generals?
All right, since you didn't answer my question, I'm going to give Heather a shot. Why is the military budget never on the table in these budget deliberations?
Right, it should be.
I'm offering you a suggestion.
Yeah, and I think your suggestion is kind of far-fetched because I think what you're saying is that if you consolidate all of the branches of military, you'll save money.
Yeah.
And I really don't see that happening. The branches of military do very specific different things. I was in the Navy. I can't imagine being a ground force troop. It just wasn't my thing. They all do very different things, and they're specialized. So I don't see that really being a cost savings. But we should be saving money. We shouldn't have such a huge budget for the military. We just don't need to be the police officers of the world in the manner in which we currently are. So there's a huge amount of waste and abuse in the system right now, and nobody's willing to tackle it because they've all got their little pet projects and their special things. And there's
but the funny part of it is Nancy Pelosi, John Murtha, and some of those people that was out there just smashing George Bush all have husbands and wives and sons, all knee-deep in those rebuilding contracts over there in Iraq.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's wrong, Frank.
I know.
That's
it's
wrong.
That's one of the reasons why they're not chopping the military budget.
How do you bash the war and then turn around and stick your hand out to get your fair share of the rebuilding? That seems a little bit of a contradiction in terms, doesn't it?
Frank, Frank, you should stop talking. Frank, you should stop talking because we agree with you. Don't ruin it, Frank. We cherish this moment. Relish this experience. We agree with you, man.
The military
we love you.
The military budget should be under as much scrutiny as everything else.
I agree, and that's the problem. It's not. It's not
more scrutiny than anything else because military and wars kill people. It should be under more scrutiny whenever we go out of our way to kill people, and we should be cutting the budget whenever we are trying to kill people. So I really think it should be under more scrutiny than your social services that help feed people and help make people
one more quick question.
Do nothing but sit in padded rooms because they're not allowed to be around students that I read. I mean, we're paying people to do nothing in this country. Why should the military be any different? Let's just judge everything equally. How about this for a novel idea? Let's just lop off. Somebody on Ed's show one time said there's at least 25% waste in the military. Let's just lop 25% off across the board of everything and make everybody tighten their belts.
Well, because you can't apply the same. That's like let's say I did have 5 employees and 3 of them were real schleps. That doesn't mean I should cut all their hours by 25% because. Then Maddie would be working that much harder to.
Yeah, but you might just get rid of 3 of them. And,
but
the other guys the hours.
But that's a more strategic cut.
It is. Yes, the strategic cut makes sense. It's the across the board stuff doesn't. Hey, let me ask one more quick question before just real quick. Heather first.
Okay.
Korea.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we may be threatening to start another war. What are your thoughts on that?
I heard this morning that they were throwing out there that we believe now that Korea has possible nuclear capability. To me, right now, at this moment in time, it smacks of, I think Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. To me, this is a WMD reason for us to attack preemptively, and it's unacceptable. As far as I'm concerned, there are a bunch of little babies rattling the chains right now. We should not attack preemptively without knowledge, hard knowledge.
Exactly, you take their threat serious when there is a missile flying over our country ready to hit one of our cities. Would that be when you'd take it serious?
Well, that's a lot better than preemptively hitting somebody that's just saying we're threatening you and we're just little babies.
Frank, let me ask you this: at what point would you have called out President Bush on his lie about WMDs in Iraq?
I don't necessarily believe that was a lie.
It was a lie.
You're the only one.
I'll tell you right now,
it's
a lie.
Frank.
Because number one, when we stopped the first Gulf War, there was Saddam signed a give up agreement. And was to allow the inspectors in. Now, there was stuff that the inspectors saw at that point that has not been accounted for. Even if you say there wasn't no new material made, there was stuff that was known and was known where it was at during the first Gulf excursion that can't be accounted for. So what about those things?
Frank, you know what I get criticized more often on the show than anything else?
Me?
Giving you the last word, and I'm going to do that right there. But I'm going to put you back on hold because I want you to hear about Heather's book because I think you got to buy a copy of this book. If nothing else, just for the pretty pink cover.
I'm waiting for that dinner invite. I like barbecued ribs sprinkled with arsenic.
Well, okay. We'll make sure the arsenic is a generous serving. No. Anyway, Heather, just if folks want to get more information about your book.
Oh, sure. They just go to unleashingamomster.com. It's unleashing a momster, M-O-M-S-T-E-R.
Now, that's not her real face, is it?
It's not, but it should be. No, because she's had a great deal of plastic surgery, so that's not her real face.
Can you get away with that?
Plastic surgery?
No, doing that on your book?
I don't know. I did. I took the picture. I feel like I should be able to, so it's my picture.
Wow. Yeah.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
I'm sure a judge will tell us before too long.
So where is this book going to be available?
It'll be available on Amazon and on the website. You can find out about it right now on just Facebook and the website.
And check out the bookstore. Maybe the folks at the bookstore downstairs will.
Yes, some bookstores will carry it. We'll be doing we haven't done any press. I mean, you are the first person to see the book because this is a proof. It's not even available yet.
Frank, you're one of the first people to see the book. Congratulations.
Go to my website, Frank, unleashingamomster.com.
All right, hey, we got to wrap up the show. Heather, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure.
Folks, I want to thank Hawk Restaurant for sponsoring this segment of our show. Hawk is at East 5th and Walnut Street in the East Village of Des Moines. And the owners, Suman and Cynthia Hawk, get about, 90% of their food from Iowa farms. And that's in this time of the year. Folks, it's an amazing place with a tremendous quality as well. But again, the food. Supporting Iowa farms and businesses. That's a great thing. And they deserve our support as well. And beyond that, of course, they support the Fallon Forum. So that's another good reason to get behind them. Check them out, folks. It's Hawk Restaurant, HOQ Restaurant at the corner of East 5th and Walnut. I'll be back on Monday, and I want to thank Maddie Arrington, my producer, doing the work of 6 men. Anyway, amazing, isn't she? I want to thank Webcast One Live for providing the studio for the show. I want to remind you to go to the Great March for Climate Action website and check out the progress we're making toward building a epic and historic march across this country to demand action on climate change. And while you're at it, go to my Facebook page. Well, anywhere on Facebook you can find a link to the Great March for Climate Action. Click like and become one of the 500 plus people who we are keeping in contact with through that venue. Anyway, thanks for sticking around, and we'll be back on Monday.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am administrative mmanager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then